David Lynch's Inland Empire is a strange film, even by David Lynch standards, which says a lot. For a man so famous for his abstract direction style of contrasting the macabre and the mundane to a point that it even has a word named after it, it'd be wrong to call his films anything but unique. But this one is special. While many of Lynch's films, especially later into his career, can be considered strange, unique, and difficult to understand at times, it's usually generally clear what's going on, especially after a couple rewatches. But with Inland Empire, man, I've tried this so many times. What the fuck is going on? It's a film that now, more so than ever, almost 20 years on from its release, almost acts as a weird outlier in Lynch's filmography more than anything. Not to be confused with other weird outliers, like Dune, which, it exists. Can't say much more about it. It's Lynch's longest film, clocking in at almost 3 hours. It's his last theatrically released film. It's his weirdest film. It's his only film shot on digital. There's a lot going for this one. Now, does that make it good? Inland Empire is by no means a bad film, but it's definitely the one I have the weirdest relationship with Lynch's filmography. In my eyes, it's not some amazing masterpiece like Mulholland Drive or Fire Walk With Me, but it's also not some horrible disaster like Dune. It's just this weird middle ground. Inland Empire began production in 2003, not long after the release of Mulholland Drive, and it was a very strange production. As I mentioned, it was Lynch's first film shot on digital using a standard definition handheld camera, which gives the film a very interesting look. While I've never been big into the film versus digital debate, as I feel both definitely have their merits, this came at a very primitive time for digital. Primitive might be the wrong word, although this film would definitely show you otherwise. Lynch used a Sony DSR PD-150 to shoot the film, which gives it a very old, almost home video look. And in some scenes I think this aesthetic really works. In others, it just looks ugly. I know a lot of people are a fan of these close-up shots throughout the film, but no matter how hard I try to appreciate these, I just don't like them. But then there are scenes in the film like those with the rabbits, or any number of scenes shot in Poland where this aesthetic really works. Ultimately, I think it works best in darker shots. Anything where there's a lot of light, it just looks weird, and not in a good way. There was a 4K restoration of the film done a few years ago, overseen by David Lynch, and it looks better, but it also looks way more artificial, and that doesn't work when the movie was filmed like this. Cinematography aside, the rest of this film's production was very unique. Being shot on digital, it meant that Lynch could work without a finished screenplay, which is something I kind of appreciate, but also probably not the best idea in hindsight. It definitely gives the film more flexibility in just how abstract it is, which again is something I both love and hate about this film. It is so fucking weird, for better and worse. The film was essentially shot as a bunch of disconnected narratives that sort of work together throughout, in a way that I cannot put into words. I think this interview at the Venice Film Festival with Laura Dern, who plays Nikki in the film, emphasizes just how disconnected a lot of it is.
The truth is, I didn't know who I was playing, and I still don't know who I played. And I look forward to seeing the film tonight to learn more.
I think one of the things this film is best known for is its promotional campaign for Laura Dern to be nominated for Best Actress. To promote the film, Lynch set up shop on Hollywood Boulevard with a sign of Laura Dern and a cow. I'm not joking. A cow.
What the f*** is David Lynch doing? He's just sitting on the corner of La Brea in Hollywood with a f***ing cow.
If you want to see the greatest performance of 2006, check out Laura Dern's performance in Inland Empire.
And after all that effort, she didn't even get nominated. You've got to be fucking kidding me. I'll get into my full thoughts on all that in a minute, but she put on a really good performance in this film. That pisses me off. And so after all of that, Inland Empire had a fairly limited theater release, and now we're here. Here as in, I've seen the film several times, and I still think it's just okay, man. I've tried so hard to appreciate this for what it is, but it's so difficult. Inland Empire is a film that tries to do a lot, and somehow pulls a good amount of it off, even if it's in this very idiosyncratic way that almost reads as a parody. I'm not going to sit here and try to interpret the film or any of that. The film's tagline is "A Woman in Trouble," which, yes, is exactly what it is, but that could also apply to a number of David Lynch's films. Blue Velvet, it's a woman in trouble. Fire Walk With Me, it's a woman in trouble. Mulholland Drive, you wouldn't believe what the f*** it's about. To put it simply, the film centers around the character of Nikki, played by Laura Dern, who's an actress that gets a part in a new film. And as Inland Empire goes on, Nikki slowly learns that the film she's in is a remake of a cursed Hollywood film in which the stars were murdered. And so what subsequently ensues is a very unique headfuck of a film in which Nikki takes on a bunch of characters that blur the line between what and what isn't real. It ultimately ends up demanding a lot of patience from the audience, without as much payoff as I would have hoped for. Although I do think this film works to some extent. When Inland Empire works, it really works. I really like the first act in particular, which is probably the only part of this movie that is direct. Or, the most direct you can get when the film in question is Inland Empire. I also really like moments throughout the second and third act that work to push the narrative forward. I especially like the ways in which Nikki is forced to interact with these characters in an environment that she's so unsure of, just as we are as an audience. It makes you question what's real and what's an external haunted force, a theme also explored through characters such as the Phantom, which lends itself to arguably the best jump scare in any film ever. All of these factors are something that rely a lot on interpretation, almost to a point of detriment. When Inland Empire doesn't work, it almost reads as a parody of a Lynch film. Indirect and relied on audience interpretation purely for the sake of doing so, rather than an actual means of creating a unique narrative. And look, maybe I need to watch this a few more times to develop a more concise understanding, but I don't even know if that was the point. A lot of the second act functions as a collection of disjointed scenes that ask the audience what and who is real, and that's a concept that I love, and the way Nikki is forced to interact with an environment around her that we, the audience, are deliberately made to feel unsafe in is a really cool idea. But ultimately, the execution is only there about half the time, and when it's there, it's really there and works beautifully. As I mentioned, the scenes shot in Poland are really cool, the stuff with the rabbits are really cool, the stuff with the which is literally what they're called in the film, I promise I'm not trying to be derogatory, are really cool. But when the execution isn't there, Inland Empire almost feels like someone watched David Lynch's filmography once and tried to make an inspired student film. And look, I'm not implying Lynch had no idea what he was doing in his own film, and I'm sure there is a deeper reading that would really help me appreciate this film and what it's trying to do a lot more. But as it stands, Inland Empire is a film with a brilliant concept, and only like half the execution. It's a very striking, idiosyncratic piece that is about a half and half mix of some of Lynch's best work, and a very cheap, overblown imitation of it. Now, does that mean I think this film is bad? No, not at all. There's a lot I love about it. Like I said, the way it makes the audience question reality is really cool, and I love the performances here that support that. Of course, there's Laura Dern as Nikki, who cannot be overstated as one of my favorite performances of the decade. But then there's also Justin Theroux as Devon, who puts on a great performance, or Jeremy Irons as Kingsley, who again puts on an amazing performance. And as I mentioned, I think some of the cinematography here is really cool. There's also a lot of cinematography that looks really cheap, for better and worse. But when it works beautifully. And on a partially related note, I'm really glad that the rabbit segments throughout the film were extended into a full 40-minute short film. I don't know why, I just really these rabbits. I'm probably in the minority that considers Inland Empire to be one of David Lynch's weaker films, but I don't know, something about this just doesn't click with me like almost all of his filmography does. If I had to rank his filmography off the top of my head, I'd probably put this above like Dune, and yeah, that's probably about it, honestly. Inland Empire is a film I have more respect for than I do actually enjoy. It was David Lynch going, F it, I can make this movie, I'm gonna make this movie. And for that, I can absolutely appreciate this film, and especially if you're a fan of Lynch's work and want something very abstract, I think this is probably worth a watch. But for the love of God, do not watch this late at night. I know this shot looks really stupid out of context, but it scared me so bad at 1 in the morning.